Here's what they don't want you to know. A teenage rocket genius says he was taken 20 stories underground at Area 51. Not to see his own rocket, but to examine something else. Something that wasn't built by human hands. David Adair claims he touched a machine the size of a school bus. No bolts, no seams, no wires. It glowed when he approached. It pulsed under his fingers. It responded to his emotions. When he got angry, tornado patterns swirled beneath its skin. He says it was alive, a symbiotic engine that merged with the pilot's consciousness. The military wanted to weaponize it. Now he's talking. Is it fantasy or the biggest cover-up in history? You decide. Now let me ask you something. If you've built up $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want all of it riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. So I want to tell you about my friends Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold and silver, the same kind big players are buying. And you can actually hold it in your hand or put it safely in your retirement account. Visit nextnewsgold.com today to find out more, or call that number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Operators are standing by. Tell them Gary Franchi sent you. Now, if you guys know anything, you've been tracking some of the stuff we've been reporting here about fusion reactors and, alternative new tech, well, actually older technology, but Ashton Forbes is one of my favorite follows on X, and he weighed in on what we were about to watch here. David Adair is probably correct regarding the fusion reactor claims. Now, just bear with me. They've had this tech for a while. Ironically, Reddit comments like this one point out the challenges Lockheed, Air Force, and others have already solved. They use extremely powerful superconducting electromagnets for confinement. They use direct energy conversion by creating a separation charge. They put this inside an air-breathing MHD hypersonic engine design. No rocket, just the engine is a drone. Thrust comes from the natural beam the plasmoid produces. So Ashton Forbes weighing in on what you are about to witness here. Another whistleblower coming forward talking about what they found underneath Groom Lake, what they saw. We'll get to that as well. Here is David Adair talking about what he saw at Groom Lake. He also weighs in on Elon Musk. But let me get into, this is a thread. I actually stumbled upon this thread a couple months ago. And I really wanted to share it with you guys. I think now is the right time. He was a teenage rocket scientist who touched an alien engine at Area 51. What if I told you the U.S. military had a symbiotic fusion engine not built by humans, and they brought in a 17-year-old to figure out how it worked? Listen to this.
There are about 61 different rocket engines of propulsion systems that you could leave this planet with. 2 of them are just a solid and liquid fuel. I happen to just pick one out of the other 61 engines to pick from. I manufactured a magnetic fusion containment engine, which in simple essence is able to create a magnetic field capable of holding a thermal fusion reaction inside, like a chunk of the sun contained in a magnetic bottle. And when you tap that power, it allows you to have tremendous thrust, which is what makes the rocket go forward. There are about...
Yeah, we're just getting started. In the summer of 1971, David, a teenage prodigy backed by a federal grant, designed a magnetic fusion containment engine, a propulsion system so advanced it could reach 8,600 plus miles per hour in 4.1 seconds. His rocket launched from White Sands and landed in Nevada. Not just anywhere either. Listen to this.
Chris. So once the engine was and the rocket was completed, we obviously couldn't launch it where I was launching smaller rockets, which were out in cow fields in Ohio. So we had to go to White Sands, New Mexico, and that was arranged by the congressman and a consultant at the time who was a retired general named Curtis LeMay. And Curtis LeMay made the arrangements from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. We rode down to White Sands on a C-141 Starlifter, and when my rocket myself got there, we started prepping it for a launch. So
It landed exactly where they told him. Groom Lake, better known as Area 51. When he arrived, the military didn't take him to see his rocket. Instead, they drove him to an underground hangar the size of 4 football fields, and then the floor dropped.
Black suits of Mary, June 20th, 1971. A plane flew in the same day we did, and out stepped these men in black suits with mirror sunglasses, and they're DOD agents. And so DOD was interested in the operation, and they were alerted to it by the Air Force and probably the Congress and whoever else was funding the program. Among those men, there was some NASA officials there that I recognized. They instructed me to send a rocket down 656 miles northwest of there to a precise set of coordinates that they gave me. And I asked them, why are we landing in a dry lake bed in Nevada? And they said, just drop it there. And I said, I can do that. So we fired the rocket, and it was a really success as far as engines go. It was extremely fast. It was so fast you couldn't even see it leave. It's like, you ever try to watch a rifle bullet leave a barrel? That's how fast this engine was. So we landed we were exactly where they wanted it. Then we had to get on a DC-9 from White Sands and leave for the dry lake bed, which is called Groom Lake in Nevada. And I was asking them, do y'all notice that these wheels on your plane, they're rubber tires and landing gears, we're going to bore more up to our belly in the dirt out there. So they said, don't worry about it. So we got on the plane, and when we got there, they were right. There were twin 10,000-foot runways there and hangars and a 42,000-acre Air Force base called Groom Lake, and it wasn't on any of the maps I was working with at the time. So my rocket was down on the south end of the field at the end of the runways, and you could see the parachutes bellowing in the wind, and we landed and got out. And I was assuming we were going to go look at my rocket right then. No, we got in golf carts and rode to the center hangar, which was a very low, flat-type hangar, but extremely large inside, size of about 4 football fields. So we pull in there and stop in these little golf carts, and we're just sitting there, and I'm going, well, that hangar's empty. I thought, this is interesting, you know. And then in a few minutes, little yellow and red lights came on flashing, and then out of the ground, or out of the floor, come these little rails with chains on them. They came up around all the doorways, and then the entire floor dropped out from under us. So June 20th, 1971.
The entire floor dropped out. They descended 20 stories underground into a base with labs, vehicles, and aircraft. Inside one workshop sat a machine the size of a school bus, metallic, radiant, glowing like a CD under sunlight. Adair recognized it immediately. It was a fusion engine, but not like his.
Worm screws. We went down about 20 stories, and what was interesting about this elevator is normally you have chains that drops these things. These huge worm screws were lowering the platform down, which allows it to carry extreme weight. When we got down there, there was a lot of various aircraft and workshops and offices and such that was off of the main bay, and then off of the main bay were smaller but still rather large work bays. And in the work bays, we went down to one that had something sitting in one of the big workshops. So we went and they opened the doors, we went inside, and the room was lit up like if you ever seen a car sitting in a paint booth. You have horizontal lights running the whole length of the room, and they arc like a rainbow all the way over. The reason being, like in a paint booth, it casts no shadows. So if you're spraying a car, if you see a run and your shadow's hiding it, you'll put a run in the car. So this was the same reason. It's a good laboratory to do it that way. That means that it's casting no shadows, so whatever you're working on, you can see it without being interfering with the light. And that was the first thing that's different about the room. They pulled the big covers off this thing, and it was interesting. It's an engine that's about the size of a school bus. And this engine is a pretty much a much larger version of the thing I built. We went down about 20 stories.
Get ready, folks. Adair built a working fusion engine as a kid, but this wasn't man-made. No wires, bolts, rivets, or seams. The metal responded to his body heat and his touch, and when he was angry, it showed him tornado-like patterns swirling beneath its translucent skin.
It's powerful, different. Also an electric magnetic fusion containment engine, but it is sophisticated and it is powerful. I would have to compare mine to it. Would be like I had a Model A, and this thing was a Ferrari. I mean, it's just tremendous, powerful difference. But we both were of the same engine breed, and this one had been damaged right in the center of the core. In the type of configurations we build, we have dual particle accelerators that cause the fusion reaction. Right in that center of these accelerators is an area that I call the eye of the hurricane. And it's like an infinity pattern, figure 8, and right in the center, it's quiet there on a matter of conversion area. So then this particular engine was a hole there about 4 feet in diameter. And that was the first thing I noticed. They asked me to look at it and describe to them how I thought the thing functioned. And I asked them, you know, how come I'm telling you about your engine? And they said that the engine was recovered in a project they was working with, and they wasn't sure how everything functioned on it, and personnel that were available that work on that was not available anymore. Also an electric magnetic fusion containment engine.
The rabbit hole goes ever deeper. He realized the truth. It was a symbiotic engine. It was alive. The engine wasn't wired to electronics. It was wired to thought. The tubing across its body mirrored neural synapses. When a pilot sat down, the engine responded to their brain waves. Think about that with what Elon Musk is creating, right? That is how this engine flew.
Engine is picking. The color of the engine was unlike any metal or alloy I was ever familiar with. And when I walked to the engine, there was a shadow on the engine. Now, I just told you that the rooms were built where you couldn't have shadows. When I stuck my arm out to it, there was a shadow on the engine, but right on the table, there was no shadow. So it's not a light casting the shadow on the engine. The engine is picking up radiation off my body. So I back away from it, the shadow dissipates. When I walk back up, it's back on. And so when I put my hands on the engine to pull myself up on it, that's where it's interesting, because the alloys in some places were so thin, it was translucent. You could see through it like a sheet of amber. So when I laid my hands on it, this really interesting swirl pattern would come off wherever my skin was touching, and they would swirl out through the metal, going out through the alloy. And I didn't know of any metal that could do that. So I thought, wow, this thing is heat sensitive. It's picking up my body heat waves like that. So when I crawled, and they were really neat-looking, smooth type wave flows coming off my hands. So I pulled myself up on the engine and started walking over it, and it was huge. It was radically different than mine because it was just so much of a different design. The color of the engine was unlike any metal or alloy I was ever familiar with, and
they didn't know how it worked. That's why I was there. That's what he said. He told the Air Force officers, this thing isn't from here, is it? They didn't answer.
You immediately know that it was alien at that time?
I suspected when I put my hands on it, it felt so different. It felt like a frog belly. If you ever, I don't know if people play with frog bellies, but I did. It looked wet, but it wasn't wet. It's just so slick looking, but it wasn't slick. And it was just amazing, but it also had such a texture, and as soon as you touched it, it was cold in the air-conditioned well in the facility, but the minute you touched the metal, it became your temperature instantly.
He asked the obvious question. If this came from a craft, then where were the occupants? It was the wrong question to ask.
Length of a football. This is an engine. I'm assuming it came out of a craft, a big one, by the size proportional differences, probably 300 feet plus, the length of a football field. Well, therefore, it's got occupants. What in God's name have you done with them? Well, that was the wrong thing to say, because they are up on the engine coming after me, and it's time to leave.
When he tried to leave, he put his hands back on the engine. This time it didn't glow. It reacted violently.
Something interesting. Well, when I bend down to get off the engine, I put my hands back on the engine. Something interesting. Instead of the nice smooth wave lines, they would now look like small tornadoes coming off all my fingertips, moving through the metal. And I pulled my hands back, put them back on. There they were, but they were starting to calm down a little bit. And then I realized what this thing was. Well, when I bend down,
the engine needed a pilot. The pilot felt everything the engine felt. He was only 17, but he understood what it meant.
It's alive. And I just realized what this engine is. It's a symbiotic engine. The engine is alive. It is an engine that's capable. The reason they couldn't figure out the firing order is that the tubing that was cascading all over its body looked like the same pattern you would have from a brainstem of a neurosynaptic ordering firing order. So what's happening is when the pilots sit down their seats, their thought waves drive the engine. And I just realized...
Oh, man. All this in the context of Elon Musk's Neuralink. Oh, my goodness. Well, the U.S. military had plans for it. He overheard officials talking about first strike capability with an engine or an alien one. They could hit Soviet targets so fast there'd be no chance of retaliation.
Light, and that's it. So if you take that type of engine containment system and put it on nuclear warheads and put them on on your own subs, park it off Siberia, the Soviets would never see but flashes of light, and that's it. They wouldn't even have time to move out of their chairs. No retaliation. So if you take out the Soviet Union, you wouldn't destroy the whole country. You would take out all the key military sites and the major cities, and they'd surrender. But if you do that, you'll have to hit another country same day called China. They have nuclear weapons, and they're not going to stand there and watch us take out the other superpower. So about 1 billion people are going to die in a single day. So if
my goodness. He couldn't let that happen. So he sabotaged his own engine. Listen to this.
Graphite grease all because of my engine. Unbelievable. So I scooped up a hand full of graphite grease off of the hangar door there, the wheels, and started crying. And I said, I want to see my rocket. So they thought, just a kid, take him out to see his rocket. I want to see what it at least looked like. So when I went out there with the 2 sergeants on the golf cart, we got out there. I walked over to it and opened the hatch, opened the particle accelerators, put the graphite grease, just smeared it on the doors inside and closed it. When you turn on particle accelerators and the fuel is using deuterium, ask any physicist what happens with deuterium meets graphite. It's pretty bad. It's a major reaction explosion. So I turned on the particle accelerators with no fuel involved, and I told the 2 sergeants, it's got a fuel leak, we got to run for it. So we get on a golf cart and take off. I gave us 60 seconds on a time delay. When we engaged, it exploded, all because...
The military wasn't pleased. He was detained, threatened, warned, you're not going anywhere. Eventually, he was conscripted, drafted into government service, and spent 10 years in the Navy working on jet propulsion systems, but he never rebuilt the engine.
Now they have nothing to work with, but they got this kid. So I was told I'm going nowhere for the rest of my life, and it was scary.
Years later, he was invited by Dr. Stephen Greer to testify before Congress during the Disclosure Project. He finally came forward. The reason, because the public had changed, and they were ready.
Well, when I testified to a joint session of the Senate and Congress in April for CSETI for Dr. Greer, we got right onto that. And my question was, is somebody coming to dinner? And it's not Sidney Poitier, is it? You know, it's possible if they have cut a deal with somebody, another race or whatever, they could have reneged on the deal, and they may be en route. Well, when I testified to a joint session of...
He's testified before Congress. He claims the alien engine wasn't from the Roswell crash. It was bigger, more recent, and far more advanced. He also says Hollywood got Groom Lake right in Independence Day because someone inside leaked the layout, a subtle act of disclosure.
So how the engine I saw did not come from the Roswell crash. The engine I saw was as big as the Roswell craft. So this is something even bigger. That's another one. So how many do they have? How much they got?
Now he's speaking out because it's not that people would panic. They'd riot if they found out the government had been lying to them.
You know, that's where the real problem is. Who shot King? Who shot, you know, Senator Kennedy, you know, and JFK? If they're lied this much to us, that's where the danger is that if it comes out, it's not so much as the public's going to panic that there's alien life out there. No, it's going to be anarchy because people are going to be so ticked off with DC for lying so many years. You know.
A genius teenager, an alien engine, a hidden underground base, a propulsion system wired to consciousness. Is it true? You decide. But David Adair isn't alone. Others are stepping forward, and the government still silent. This is all from Skywatch Signal, another follow of mine on X. And as you know, next week, Tuesday, is the next government hearing regarding alien technology. Here's Rick Doty, Paul Smith posting this. Rick Doty describes an ET craft he saw under Groom Lake in July of 2016. It defied gravity.
Legs are...
Did you ever see any of the ET craft when you were there in the underground?
Yes. I saw two. The one that defied gravity, which no one ever told me it was an ET.
Can you describe that?
It was a oval shape. It wasn't very big. It was probably 10 feet by 20 feet. It wasn't very big. It had, I think, legs or landing gear that we had put on it. Because they didn't fit the structure of that craft. And it had these portholes that were almost fluid-like. You look at it and it looked like you're looking through water, if you know what I'm talking about. And I never saw the inside of it, but I only saw the outside.
Here's more. Captured oval ET craft as working models. Rick Doty's description matches the craft that was seen by David Adair in 1971 under Groom Lake. Teardrops with landing gears, air conditioning hoses, power cables, and drip pans. Check this out.
A good normal. We go down about 205 feet, and the floor levels out, and you look straight out ahead, and I'm going, you gotta be kidding. There's this arc-shaped cavern that is so far, it's bending with the curvature of the earth, and you cannot see the end of it. I'm going, man, this is big. So the first thing I blurt out is a good normal question. What'd you do with all the dirt? And they got furious over that question. And I'm going, I just smiled, never mind. And so we're riding down through the hallways of the causeway, and there's shops, labs, other hangars, sliding doors, other aircraft in there. The XB-70 was sitting down there. I saw it. Or something that looked like it, because at that time, 71, the other one's sitting in the Air Force Museum, so I don't know what that was, but it looked like the XB-70, but it was huge. Anyway, there was other aircraft, and then there was a couple of things sitting there that looked like teardrops with landing gears. And these are not models because they got air conditioner hoses hooked to them, power units, and drip pans. These are working aircraft or spacecraft or whatever they are. And there was another thing really cool. I was a Irvin Allen fan of Voyage Bob and Sea. Remember the flying sub? One of them suckers was sitting over there. And I'm going, wow, man, they got the flying sub. And they got on the radio and they closed the door. But we're riding on down. We go for a good ways. We stop to the left, and there's this, it's not like the other hangar doors where they slide. You know what an iris of a camera looks like? This iris has got to be about 40 feet in diameter. is made of some kind of armor. And I thought, whoa, man, that's a serious door. Must be something good behind that. And we're going in it. The guy jumps out, looks at this thing, flashes the screen. He's got his hands on the panels, and it opens up. And I went, did I just see a retinal scanner and a palm scanner? This is 1971. We go down about 200.
Man. Yeah, talk about a rabbit hole, man. Here's more. 6 hours ago, this was posted. Although Elon Musk is making strides in rocketry and propulsion engines, his work is interesting yet junior varsity level when compared to David Adair and his work. Adair is varsity. He built and successfully launched the most advanced propulsion system yet seen. Yet seen on this Earth, the star in a jar, otherwise known as electromagnetic fusion, containment, acceleration 0 to 8,500 miles per hour in 4 seconds. Here is an interview that he did with Michael Sala, in which David shares his experience at Area 51. Dude, this guy's got me on a rabbit hole, man. I love it. I love it. Let's go.
Electromagnetic fusion.
And she says, yeah. All right, we're going to slow down. I didn't think you could take it all. You take way more than an average human does. I don't know what it is with you. Maybe it's why I picked you. Why did you pick me? She said, that's another story. Oh, God, how many more are there? So she said, be still. And then finally, she said, the things let go of my fingers, and she goes, we're done. What are we going to do now? We're going to go. What do you mean we're going? You're a lifeboat. I just bailed out.
So just to clarify this, so Pythian was behind you getting dreams when you were 12 years old,
right,
and helped you develop this electromagnetic fusion containment,
right,
engine, and then setting place this chain of events that led you being taken to Area 51 and this underground facility where you found the real...
How do you make a story up like that? I can't. I don't know who the hell can. Do you know anybody who can do that? I mean, that's complicated. Filled with lots of people along the way. Lots of events. She had years. That's another thing. How long have you been there? She said, well, when I first landed here, where'd you come from? I was in a war. What war? War between light and evil is still going on. It's fought between the galaxies. What? There's nothing out there but dark matter. Oh no. She told me in 1971, she said, there are hundreds of solar systems between the galaxies. We never saw one until they just parked that damn satellite out there, that new one. James Webb.
The James Webb Space Telescope?
Yes, James Webb Telescope. It turns on, and guess what it found? Dozens and dozens of damn solar systems between the galaxies, just like she said. And I said, where are you from? Oh, me and my people are born between the galaxies. Like whales in deep oceans. Yeah, it's a good analogy. How old are you? Well, we couldn't date. I thought, sense of humor. You got humor? Yeah. Well, how old are you? I'm 13 and a half. You a teenager? Billion years old. Billions of years? Hell, we're lucky to hear people thousands of years old or a million years old. No, nothing that's a big 13. The galaxy is only 14 and a half, 15 billion. Yeah, we were the first things made.
So what you encountered was this engine that is 13.5 billion years old with a consciousness.
Yep.
That is integrated into that.
Yep.
And that was crashed or was part of an ancient war and it's been there for...
They took a blast from something, their enemy. They even told me the name. I can't remember it. Started with an N. Sounded like Nazi, I swear it did. Anyway, they took a blast in the side. She comes sailing in to the nearest galaxy, the Milky Way. And she said, do you know where you are in the galaxy? Yeah, we're on the very outermost arm on the outside. Which means you're the first Class M planet I ran into. The very first one. I was hurt, so I had to find a Class M planet quick. You were the first I came up on. When I landed, it was an ocean. Where are they now? They're part of the Great Basin. Nevada. It sits in the Great Basin. It used to be an ocean. I said, well, how old are you? She said, 30.5 million. Well, how long have you been lying here? Hundreds of millions of years for you. I landed in an ocean. Now I'm in a dry lake bed. I mean, God almighty. Well, what's with this damn Air Force? She goes, is that what you call them? Yeah, they're Air Force personnel. She says, we got another name for them. What? Blackhearts. And she says, yeah.
Wow.
All right, we're going to slow down.
That goes even deeper than the original thread that set me on this rabbit hole. But this stuff is just so fascinating to consider when you think about exotic technologies, alien propulsion systems, Area 51. It's always been something that's interested me. That's why I follow some of these accounts, because it's just fascinating. And then, with the work of Ashton Forbes and MH370 and what he's been able to discover and some of the technologies that are being suppressed. I mean, what else is out there? I mean, do you believe this guy? I mean, I personally, watching him, I couldn't detect, my BS meter just didn't go off. I mean, I'm watching his eyes. I'm watching his body language. And this guy has been around. Now he's on my radar. But he's been on someone else's radar for a very long time. If you got value from this report, tab subscribe. My final thought is next. This changes everything, if it's true. David Adair's story aligns with Rick Doty's testimony about oval craft under Groom Lake. Multiple witnesses, similar descriptions. Either it's the greatest coordinated lie or the most explosive truth ever hidden. So think about it. If we've had living, conscious propulsion systems since the 1970s, why are we still burning rocket fuel? Why did Adair destroy his own engine rather than let him weaponize it? He said the military was planning first strike capability of 1 billion deaths in a day. Now, he warns the real fear in D.C. isn't panic over aliens, it's riots when Americans learn they've been lied to for 50 years. While Musk plays with primitive rockets and develops Neuralink, has the deep state been sitting on consciousness-driven star drives? Are we being kept in technological chains while elites hoard machines that think? So here is the question. Do you believe that we've actually recovered alien technology? Yes or no? And if you want some truth, go to shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.